So most people live outside in. Oh fuck, my mouse isn't working. Oh, you get so out of control and panicky when your mouse doesn't work. But anyway, so most people live outside in, and what I mean by outside in is we let external things define what we believe about ourselves and our thoughts and our behavior. So it's programming. You know, if you grow up with television, and if you grow up with advertising, you grow up with pressures of high school and cool and designer jeans or whatever, you will slowly live outside in. And when you live outside in, when you determine your worth by your ability, when you seek approval validation, when you mute yourself because of fear and being afraid of what other people think, what you're risking, what you're jeopardizing is, and when you do that, by the way, you do that in all your relationships. You don't just do that with your friends, or you don't just do that with certain people. It leaks because that's who you are. That's how you're programmed. That's how you're wired. So when you live outside in, okay, you are powerless and you are watered down and you are cardboard cut out. You're very two-dimensional. And so what happens is your potential goes down and it's very hard to feel fulfilled, to feel complete, to feel valuable. Now, what you do is if you can live inside out, and that's very difficult because all these years you've been living a certain way, and to change that overnight it's impossible. It's like doing drugs and suddenly one day, well, it's like stop smoking. If you've been smoking for 15 years, you know, and that habit. So the way we think becomes ingrained, and the habits that we have, whether healthy or not, just become knee-jerk reactions. Okay, so the goal is to live inside out. And I always talk about inside out, and what I mean by that is you're actually flipping yourself, and you're pulling from your truth. And if you could live inside out, which means you turn off that faucet where you're seeking approval validation. You start practicing transparency, pulling from your solid self instead of pseudo. Be heard and make that a non-negotiable. Tell people how you feel. I'm not saying verbally vomit on them, but express your truth. So by doing that process, you're validating yourself. You're telling yourself that you exist. Not only do you exist, but you need to be heard. And you're creating a conduit for your gifts to shine. Whatever they are. I don't care if you're a comedian or you're a writer or you're an athlete. It doesn't matter. Whatever your gifts are, they're not going to be projected into the universe if you're living outside in. You got to live inside out. It's like taking a piece of rubber and flipping it. Okay? And when you do that, that inside piece has not been exposed, so you're going to feel raw. You're going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to feel nervous, and you're going to feel naked, and you're going to feel, you know, this is vulnerability, and most people can't do this because it's scary. But the rewards in doing this is your potential skyrockets. And you know, I'll be honest with you, you become very unique, and some people aren't going to like you, you know, but look, do you like everyone that you meet? No, of course not. But what's at stake? What's at stake is your potential, your purpose, what you're meant to do, and who you're meant to affect. You know, all your gifts that you have. You become a prism instead of a rock, which I talk about a light. So the light begins to shine through you, and what comes out, as cheesy as it sounds, are colors, as opposed to a rock or a stone where the light you just absorb and nothing comes out. So, you gotta live inside out, and there's a way to do that. I talk about containers, and you can't just. It's not like I'm just gonna starting tomorrow I'm gonna live inside out, and you don't. No, it's a process. It's work. It's practicing things daily, and you can find a lot of those concepts on my website. But living inside out. You guys ever see Fight Club? You know that movie is ultimately about inner conflict. So when I run groups or I do sessions, I talk about that movie a lot because that movie I ask people who is pseudo and who is solid. Is it Brad Pitt or Edward Norton that is solid? And most people will say solid means truthful, authentic. Pseudo means a very false version of you. So I ask them that, and most people say, well, Brad Pitt's the false guy, right? And Edward Norton is the solid. It's actually not true. Edward Norton is the pseudo guy. So in that movie, he's living outside in until the Brad Pitt character comes in. And of course, it's a kind of an extreme version of that where he makes him punch people in the face and go crazy, whatever. But through that process, Edward Norton starts to live inside out. He finds a purpose. There's meaning. He starts, I don't know, what does he do? He starts working out. He starts, getting all his traction. Then he gets the girl and all that, and at the end, it turns out it's all in his head, and it's that inner conflict. And so I use that movie because it's a great visual to explain this idea of living inside out and what happens in your life and how things line up and how all the things that you guys are chasing that you want actually kind of happen organically when you live inside out as opposed to living outside in, and you're seeking and you're wanting, and if only I got that job, if only I can drive that car or be with this girl, then my life would be perfect. No, it wouldn't, because you're still thinking that way. And you're going to be hollow, you're going to be a shell. So you have to live inside out, and what you're meant to get or who you're meant to interact with will organically happen. And when you get there, you will have all those things and yet be fulfilled and be rare and valuable, That's why a lot of people that win the lottery and they think that money is going to make them quote-unquote happy, it usually ends up destroying them because the way they think and they behave, they're still living outside in. And now just gasoline's poured on that, on that fire. So, anyway, that's my ramble. And ask yourself how you're living. Are you Edward Norton? Are you Brad Pitt? Do you remember the opening of that movie? Him going to meetings and you just feeling invisible? Maybe it's time to start punching people in the face. Starting with yourself.